Please welcome the incredible Abbey Oslin.
Hi, thank you. I'm so excited to chat with you. And honestly, I could talk about SEO for years. So hopefully this isn't too long.
30 minutes. So do your best to dumb it down. I get it.
I will. I will try my best.
Well, it's so funny because when we know a topic well enough, we tend to think it's easy, right? And you and I could probably go on a walking date for 2 hours and still have so much to talk about our own industries. But I know a thing or two about SEO because there's a huge overlap with public relations, and it is intimidating and it's confusing for a lot of people. And so we're kind of here to clear the air as part of the October Master Your Marketing Mindset series with the hopes of inspiring female entrepreneurs to actually get their marketing strategy in place for 2024. This is the year to crush it. And SEO is a big piece of that pie.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to just dive right in. So people get your notes ready because we're going to talk about SEO.
Yes.
This is a silly question, but what does it stand for?
No, it's half the reason why people ignore it because they're like, that sounds really jargony. Like it's an acronym. Like I need a degree to understand it. It stands for Search Engine Optimization, which sounds, again, jargony and heavy. Search engine is just Google or Bing or Yahoo, whatever you use to do your searches when you're looking for something. And optimization just means the process of making things better. So really, SEO is just all about the process. It is not a one and done thing. It is a process of improving your website and your online content to be found better on a search engine like Google.
Okay, why is that important?
So it's important. And this is also a question I get because some people are like, oh, I'm already like doing okay. People find me. Word of mouth is great. Like, why do I need SEO? And there's a whole bucket of people out there that like the world is huge. The people you can reach are endless. Like there are so many people you can reach and help and discover with your business. Why wouldn't you want another piece of the pie of people who are out there searching for the problems that you can answer, the products that you can offer, the things that you can help make their life or their business better? There's just these people out there searching for things where you can help. And why wouldn't you want to be there? Why wouldn't you want to be the answer that they're searching for? I also see too, one of the first things I do with my clients is look at their analytics and see like, okay, who's coming into their website? How are they finding them? 99% of the time, the highest amount of time on site is coming from people who find them from a search engine. So organic search is a bucket, and typically it's the highest engagement someone gets because people are seeking you out. They're seeking out exactly what you offer, and they're landing on your website, and now they want to explore and they want to spend time on your page. So that's really good to know, is that all the effort you're putting into search to help those people find you, they're scouring your website. Like they love it. They want to digest it. So all the more reason for all that hard work that you put into your website to not go to waste.
Right. And we're probably going to talk about this again, but SEO is such a huge thing with public relations and people don't see it. And here's the thing. And I always come back to this example in terms of like pitching timelines is in July, journalists are already putting together their Christmas gift guides and their Christmas things. And why? Because people, I mean, if you started Googling right now, time of this recording, September 27th, if you started Googling stuff for the holidays, it'll come up. It'll be like holiday fashion trends, nail colors for the holidays 2023, all these things. And what? Explain to us, why do they do this?
Yeah. Okay. So I have so many things I can talk about with this, but we have two really high performing blogs on our website that drive a ton of search traffic for us. One is how to create a Gmail signature in Canva. So simple, but drives thousands of traffics, hits every single month. And we wrote it 3 months ago. The second is a post 3 years ago. Sorry, not 3 months ago, 3 years ago. The second is a post all about supporting small businesses for Saturday shopping, like Small Business Saturday. And it's a post again written a couple of years ago. And we sit on page 1 for small businesses online because of it. Like those posts are things that drive traffic year round for us, not just for the holidays. So one, when you create content like gift guides, like the reason why people create content like that is because it's huge traffic drivers for your website. So it's really good as a user who's creating it. But you, in terms of a business owner who wants to get featured on gift guides and wants to get on these publications, what people don't understand is that this is something called a backlink. So when your website is linked on someone else's website, it's called a backlink. And these backlinks are basically Google's word of mouth. So when someone tells you about another company or a friend tells you about another friend you should go meet or someone you should meet, you're going to hold that with a higher standard because someone told you about it. And so you're like, okay, I trust them. I know like this person must be good. They wouldn't have referred me without them. It's the same thing in the online space. So when people are talking about your website, when people are linking your website, when people are referring you, search engines deem that with a high authority. They're like, wow, they must really know their stuff. They must really be an expert because they're being featured. They're being talked about. People are showing them. So because of that, it gives you what is called a higher domain authority. And domain authority is how authoritative Google sees you as a website and a person in your industry. The higher the number, so it's 0 to 100, higher the number, the easier it's going to be for you to rank on a search engine. And you can't just grow that by creating blog content. You have to have backlinks to also grow. And that is like the whole big picture with SEO. It's about creating content that people are searching for and getting people to talk about you with the backlinks and the huge PR opportunities that come along with that.
So when it comes to PR, here's a question, and hopefully I'll phrase this right, is what's the difference between a blog post, for example, on your website ranking high for certain keywords versus having a really good PR article linking back to your website? Are they the same? Do they mean the same?
They can both do wonders for your SEO. Both of those should help drive traffic to your website, because if you're linked in another publication that's driving traffic to your website, awesome. That traffic is going to be categorized differently. So typically it's like referral traffic versus organic search traffic. It's just two different ways to bring traffic to your website, but they all help the foundation of your SEO. So both are important. And usually I'll tell my clients, like, you need to be doing, that's a holistic SEO picture. You need to be doing all of that in order to be improving your SEO. You can't forget about securing backlinks and features, because oftentimes what I see, depending on the industry, is those actually help increase your domain authority faster than just creating and pumping out content for your blog.
Why? Why is that?
Because, I mean, think about it. It's like it's the word of mouth. So it's like, typically, if you see people featuring you all the time in all of these places, Google's going to see that and they're going to say, well, they must be really trustworthy. And like, that's really important. It's basically your own like identity of people just approving it, like saying, you are doing a great job. And that's why I'm featuring you. So because of that, search engines see it.
Now, what would be a good process for a small business owner who has a little bit of budget to throw at this? And here's what I want to look at. So we have this thing called the Authority Ladder within our Authority Booster Intensive, where we essentially do a quick overview of a brand's online presence, predominantly their website. So if you're an author publishing a book and whatever it is you're doing and you're pitching the media, usually the place you're sending people to is your website. And a lot of people, they jump the gun. They're so excited. Let's do this. I've said no to a handful of clients to work with because they're not set up. And SEO is an important thing, but you think about it, if you're sending the media and like they're linking to, not only are you sending journalists to your website to check you out, but then all of a sudden now the media starts linking to you, publications start linking to you. You have to leverage that traffic. Right? What are some simple steps for small businesses owners to be able to leverage that peak of traffic coming in? And how is that important with SEO?
Yeah. So that is like the magic of also understanding what is working for your SEO. Like you need to, one, understand where that traffic is coming from into your website. And that's what Google Analytics is for. So understanding those backlinks, referrals, like what is driving traffic there? What pieces of content did you create on your website that are driving traffic for you? And then you have to make some assumptions of like why they're coming to you. Like, what are the call to actions on these posts and what are they hoping to see? And then how can you capture that? So it's all about just what's your goal and how are, like, if you're selling a book, for example, you should, like, right there when they land on your website, like, what are you doing to strategically get them to buy that book? Like, are you making it easy for them? Are you making them navigate to 15 tabs just to buy it? Like, that's a huge disconnect between someone who like isn't answering the question in terms of where they're being featured. For us, like for our blog, for example, we want to capture those people and bring them to our podcast. So we need to have like a little drop down banner that's telling them about the podcast, or a pop-up, or maybe if you have a specific blog post that's about some kind of offering and you have a free resource for that, can you add a pop-up to that page that then shows them the free resource so you can capture that traffic and bring them to your email list? The goal of search, and this happens a lot, is that we expect the people working on our business, so people helping us with SEO, people helping us with PR, people helping us with all of these things, to at the end of the day drive sales. And that's not always the metric. So from an SEO perspective, the goal is to drive traffic. It's to drive traffic to your website. Now your website needs to be set up to convert. How are you converting them? Is it sales? Is it growing your email list? And then if it is like growing your email list, for example, now it's your job to take that email list and sell to them. It's not your SEO person's job to do that. It's your job to convert that traffic. So that is something to be very conscious of, is like, what is the goal of this thing that I'm doing? Is it to increase my website traffic? Is it to drive sales? Is it to increase my authority, which then further increases my traffic? Like, understanding what your goal is and reading your numbers each month to make sure that you're meeting those goals is so important.
I love it. Just all of this, I'm thinking of PR too.
Mm-hmm.
So
please, they go hand in hand.
And it's like the foundation is, and here is one thing too I want to explain, is you do not have to have the most beautifully designed website. And sometimes those most beautifully designed websites are slow and deter people.
Mm-hmm.
Start with copy. You need to start with understanding what is it, what you represent, like your vision, your mission, who you're targeting. People, when they come to your website, have to be like, oh my gosh, this is for me. How does she even know that? That means you're winning. Mm-hmm. And then from there, you design. But part of that process is also understanding target audience and the keywords that you need to sprinkle on your website. And we're going to talk about this more specifically, because it's not just like randomly throwing these words out. And then you build on that. And that process in creating those keywords too for your website, for all the meta tags and all the fancy words that you know that I don't know, in the blog post headers.
It sounds like you know them.
Well, enough. Are also keywords for your email pitches to journalists. Mm-hmm. And here's why. And I'm hoping that you're using the same set of keywords for this. When you pitch the media, most of the time you'll get a no. As in, the no is in the form of they don't reply. If they're interested, they'll reply. However, if you write the pitch well and you use your keywords, in the future, whether it's next week, next month, next year, and journalists are assigned a story around a specific topic that you might be good for, typically the first place they go is their inbox. And they'll search their inbox for those keywords. And guess what? Boom, you'll pop up. And so this is why I say, if you craft a great pitch, and I have all this stuff on my website, wewildwomen.com, and it's the right person, it's the journalist beat, it could eventually come back. I've had so many instances where journalists have even gone off and published full-page features in magazines that I didn't know about until someone was like, oh my gosh, your client made it into this magazine. I'm like, what? And this is all the beauty of using the right words. So speaking of words, let's talk about keywords. This is probably one of the most confusing parts of it, not only in deciding which keywords to use, but where the heck do I use them? So the floor is yours, Abby.
Oh man. So keywords in general, I think we can get stuck in our head too, because we're in our own industry and we use the jargon that our audience doesn't use. So you really have to take a step out of that and you have to think like, what is my audience searching for? And if you're not even sure where to start by asking them. Like take a small sampling of people, whether they're close business friends or whether they're people you know on Instagram, whether they're your friends that somewhat understand it, or just asking Instagram stories like, hey, like how would you search for my business? Asking those questions can help bring up like, oh, people are searching for me based on this. And it can really help change your perspective of how people are finding you, because we might think one thing when really we're using another thing. So that's number one, just kind of taking off that jargon, those like glasses of how you view yourself and having an open mind, which is oftentimes I work with clients all over the board, like so many different mixtures of industries. And people ask all the time, like, have you ever worked with anyone like me? Like, are you going to be able to do this if you haven't worked in my industry? And it's like, absolutely, because I don't have that mask on. I'm not going to think of this from a perspective that I like understand everything you do. I'm going to look at it from a perspective of like your audience who's searching for you. So that's number one. There's so many tools out there you can use too. Ubersuggest is one I recommend all the time. Very cost effective. You actually get a few free searches a day. So it's definitely one that it's an actual tool that you can use rather than there's like plugins, like keywords everywhere, things like that you can just get like Chrome plugins for your browser. And as you're searching Google, it will tell you how often someone is searching for that keyword a month. So, tools like that will help you then take the words that you asked people what they're searching for, plug them in, and then see, is this keyword getting volume? That's one thing you have to look for. Like, are people searching it? Because if only 10 people a month are searching for that keyword, that's pretty low. And you're not going to drive a ton of traffic with that word. So it's all about having like a mix, high volume keywords, low volume keywords that might be more niche specific to your audience. And also looking at how competitive that keyword is. Because if that keyword is super competitive, and Ubersuggest uses a simple red light, green light kind of approach so that you can see like green means not competitive, red means super competitive. If it's super competitive, that likely means that those people that are appearing on page one for this word have really high domain authorities. They have tons of backlinks. They have tons of content on their website. They're getting tons of traffic. And it's going to be really hard for you to outrank them. And the whole point isn't to be writing into the abyss without ever showing up. The whole point is to make sure that we're writing for keywords that have the potential to get you on a higher page and drive more traffic to your website. So understanding the keywords and using tools like that is super important. And then you have to know where to put them. And this is where everyone gets really hung up, because the way we type in Google is not the way we talk. Like, you don't talk like how you type where I mean, sometimes you do. Like full sentences, right? Yeah. And it's like, please spit out something I know. But that's the thing. Like, Google is smarter than we give them credit for. You don't need to use the keyword exactly as it shows up on a tool. You can add in an and or an or you can add an s, or you can flip the words around. Google is smart enough, and all search engines are smart enough. I say Google a lot because they have the highest market share, obviously. But that's something where you just need to speak like a human, like talk. And this is where it comes to your website copy. Like, you need to convert people on that page. And if you're talking like a robot, no one's going to convert. You don't want to just write for a search engine, because when someone comes through to you from a search engine, they're not going to connect with you. So you need to take those words and you need to use them in your own voice, your own personality, and you should still use them, but mix them up and make them sound like you. That is super important, not to get hung up on the technicalities of the word when you're using them throughout your website copy.
Oh gosh, I remember when I started my PR agency, my first PR agency back in 2012. That was the time where you can hire writers off of, it wasn't Upwork.
Like Fiverr?
No, it was before Fiverr. I forget what it's called. Anyway, and you literally gave them 10 to 20 keywords, And we would just say, go and write these articles. And we would kind of finesse them when they'd come in. At the time, we were doing, our volume of content creation was crazy. We were doing like 4 or 5 long form blog posts a week.
Wow.
Yeah, through our writing team. And it worked back then. It really worked. But some of the content that would come back, and these people are SEO experts. They're not necessarily writers. And I was like, oh, this kind of sounds cheesy. But then we'd post it, boom, we'd get all the traffic. That crap don't fly these days.
No.
But I did want to come back to a point. It's something that I do with my clients too, to help extract those SEO words that they might not know that they need to use. I ask them this question, and maybe you do something with your clients. So if you do, please elaborate. I ask them, how does your customer describe you in 3 words or less? And why is that? It doesn't have to be a sentence. It could be just 3 words to describe what you do. So this is pulling from your current or past customers. And this is also stemming from, I think it was Sean Ellis who created a survey for the startup world back in the day. And it's like, it was for marketing purposes. How does your client or customer describe you in 1 word? And if you see the pattern, that's a word you should be using in your marketing, but 3 words or less. And then you can expand on that. And it's not like the words of, oh, she's kind and courteous. It's like in the service that you deliver. And then if you have enough of these replies, you can see the pattern. Oh my gosh, they use the word like sales cold calling expert or something like that. And it's like, maybe that is something you should consider using in some of your content. Yeah. So is there anything that you guys do that's similar to that?
Yeah, there's 3 questions I ask in the questionnaire specifically that I use then to do all my keyword research. One is, who is your competition? I want to know who you view as your competition, because I'm going to look up what keywords they rank for. Like, how are people searching for them? And are there any similarities there? Or are there differentiators that we can differentiate ourselves from? So I ask that question. I ask, what do you think your audience is typing into Google when they're searching for you? What are the 3 words that people are typing in? So very similar to what you said. And then I ask, how are you different than your competition? And what I do with that question is I pull out those things, like the adjectives, the descriptions, all of those things that my clients use to describe themselves and how they're different from everyone else. And I use those as keyword adjectives that can like help make your keywords longer, differentiate you, help you get discovered. So those are the 3 questions. And I think even if you're DIYing your own keywords and looking up those research, like ask yourself those questions, start there, because you often don't know that you're using a word that could help you until you actually like do that exercise and write it out.
Sweet. Okay. So now that we have our list of keywords, what do we do with them?
Yeah. So you just use them everywhere.
Just
everywhere, right? Sprinkle them all over. So you do need to use them in your website. Like, absolutely. There are priority places. So your headlines have a higher priority, and your headlines have what's called a heading tag. This is going to get kind of jargony, but you'll probably recognize this if you've played around with design on your website. So when you go to change a headline style, it will likely say heading 1, heading 2, heading 3. And we think of that as like heading 1 is the biggest, heading 2 has a script font, heading 3 is like a smaller sub font. And that's how we think of it. But on the back end, it's telling Google what the most important thing is. Heading 1 is the most important thing on your website, and you should only have 1 of them. And the amount of clients that I work with who don't have any heading 1s because the font is too big and they don't like it on their website, it's crazy. We just lost the opportunity to tell a search engine what the most important thing on our website is. So that heading is super important. And also, like what you said before, so like sales specialist, like say you're like, oh, that's ugly, I never want to use that on my website. Can you make that an FAQ? Can you make that like a subheading on your website to say like, what's the difference between me and a sales specialist? And now you've used that keyword on your website, and you've used it in a way that positions you to speak to what the difference is, but still might help you get found for someone searching for that. So like there's so many unique ways you can use a keyword in your industry, but in your own voice and your own personality, because you should never use a keyword just because someone is searching for it if it doesn't match your brand. Like that's super important. So website copy, headlines, and SEO titles. If there is one thing, like if someone told me if you could only update one thing on this person's website for SEO, what would you do? It would be SEO titles. Like that's the very first thing I would update. And this is just that blue clickable link that shows up on a Google page. What is that title? Like, what does it show? And that's where you should be using keywords. And you can do that for every page of your website. And it should be unique for every page of your website. You shouldn't be stuffing the same keyword in there. So unique and differentiated, which those are ranking factors, which determine where you sit on a search page when Google is filing you for that keyword.
So is SEO title different than just a normal title?
Yep, you can differentiate them. So like the headline, for example, if you're writing like a blog post or the show notes for your podcast, you can make your headline different than your SEO title. And in fact, I always differentiate mine. So my SEO title is going to be more like clickable. Like I want someone, and not clickbaity because that sounds, salesy, but I want it to stand out on a search page. I want it to be something that someone clicks on. And also I want to make sure it's using the keyword. Whereas my headline might be a little bit more playful because they've already gotten to my page. Now I want them to read the content. So it's great if you can use the keyword in both, but I always prioritize the keyword in my SEO title over my headline.
So in Google, do they both show up?
The headline won't show up. Nope. The SEO title or the page title will be what shows up on a search engine, not your headline. So your headline is just what they'll see when they click through. But again, those are like heading 1. So like those are still high priority and taken into consideration when Google is determining which pages show up on a search engine, but you don't see it on a search page.
And then, so what you're saying is blog post as an example, because we all know what that is. Mm-hmm. The title for the blog post that you see on the blog is different than the SEO title. And you're saying they shouldn't be the same.
Yeah. Sometimes they can be, like sometimes they make sense, but I want you to have a different mindset when you're writing your SEO title, because your SEO title is what someone on a search engine page is going to see. Is your headline going to make them want to click? Like actually take that keyword of what you wrote that blog post about and Google it. See what other people have written on that page 1 and which one do you want to click on, and think about why. Like, why do you want to click on that one? And now how can you make your SEO title be the one that people want to click on? Like, it's a different thought process.
So say you find another similar blog post that's ranking. Does it make any sense to name it the same thing?
Not usually, like maybe sometimes, but I would say usually you can have your own spin on it. Like, what is different about that post that you like have done better? Like, I would push you to find a differentiator. Sometimes it might be like very similar because it is a very similar piece of content, and then use the black text underneath is where you can differentiate what your content is about. So if I saw 2 pieces of content that were exactly the same, I'm going to use that meta description, which is what that black text underneath is, to help differentiate what my content is. So then you can use that space if it's the exact same title.
Gotcha. This is huge. I'm taking notes. I need to go to my website. I really want to briefly touch on social media, and predominantly we're using Instagram as an example. So I was told that the only thing searchable if you go to Instagram search is the actual your name. Is that correct?
No. Everything is searchable.
Really? I mean, obviously hashtags, but okay. Yeah.
So hashtags, because people always ask this too. Hashtags are the old way of searching. Instagram. Instagram didn't have a way to search for words up until recently. What was it, like a year and a half ago, where the search bar now lets you search with words. So they didn't have that before, and you had to use hashtags. That is how on the back end they were able to aggregate all of that stuff together. Now, you don't need a hashtag to search for things. You can just search for things. So hashtags still make sense if people are searching for them. Like, it's just like a keyword. If people are searching for those hashtags, then perfect. They still make sense. My guess is that people aren't going to search for hashtags forever. Like, that's going to start trending away, and people are going to start searching for keywords. So that's why you'll notice that sometimes now, instead of hashtags, people are just doing a slew of keywords at the end of their post.
Yeah. I'm totally creeping the word PR expert on Instagram right now as I'm listening to you, and I'm fascinated by this.
So when your search
up is
go ahead
in the caption.
Yeah.
And it's not
Yes.
even a hashtag.
Yes, exactly.
It's
So
normal words.
it's the words, yeah. So you can search for accounts. And when you're searching for accounts, like when you search a word, you can toggle up top, like accounts, post, those types of things. So when you're searching for accounts, it's pulling it from your name. Like your name is the most searchable thing. It's not the only searchable thing. But then if you are just searching for a word, all these posts that pop up, people use that as their alt text. So you can actually add alt text to your images in Instagram.
Okay, explain what that is, because most people are like, what is
right? So alt text is used anywhere you have an image online where someone is using like a screen reader or has like any kind of visual impairment or anything like that. So it's super important for accessibility reasons to be doing this, because you want to make sure that everyone, regardless of abilities, can access your website. So that is more important than just using your alt text for searching, because that's the purpose of alt text, is for visually impaired users. So you should always use that first. But if you're searching for something like a product, like, hey, I want natural deodorant, and you search for that and you use your alt text as natural deodorant, then like you have the ability to pop up there because you used it as your image alt text. So this is all in the settings of your post. So before you hit publish, you can choose your alt text. It's like on the opposite corner of adding people. So like you can tag people and then you can add alt text. So if you go back to edit a post, you can hit edit post and then you can see that there. So that's one. Yep. You can add it. After the fact. So if you search for things too, you'll notice like it's not based by most recent. It's based by most relevant. So it's just like a search engine. It's running the same way. And then also your caption, like your caption comments, the comments people use, if they use the keywords in a comment, can also help you show up. So literally any word.
People's comments?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, on your post.
I remember on Instagram, there used to be these, have you heard of the promo trains or like the promo pods?
Yeah. Yep.
So what those used to be was like a group of friends or acquaintances would come together, and there was maybe like 10 to 12 of them. And any single time somebody would publish a post, you'd go into your like WhatsApp and be like, hey guys, I just published a post, because you wanted it to be like, quote, organic. Yeah. And it did work for a little bit, but after a while, I think Instagram was like, nice try, ladies. Nice try.
Yeah. They're like, it's the same people that are commenting and liking. And yeah, they can tell. That's where half the time, like, same thing goes with SEO too and social. Like, if something feels like cheating, it probably is.
Oh, come on. Every day I feel like I'm cheating.
Sorry, fun sucker. I know, but it's fun when you do it the right way, and then it just works forever.
Well, it did work, and then it stopped working because everybody was doing it. And I was like, oh shit. I remember the first time my friend Diana told me about it. She's like, hey, you can't tell anybody about this technique, but we have this little like promo pod. And I was like, what the heck's that? And I was like, oh, this sounds actually really smart. And it worked for like a month or so, and then it didn't. And then everyone just gave up. Yeah. But I think that's a good point, especially with SEO, that if it feels like cheating, it is. Same can be said with PR. Yeah. I think about like, I know part of our job together is really in teaching our customers and prospects the process, because especially with SEO, because it takes a long time for some things to start ranking. And they're like, well, what are you guys doing on that back end if it's not ranking yet? For me, it's like, we generally pitch on average 10 contacts per week per customer. And they're like, doesn't seem like a lot. Could be a lot. It can take upwards to an hour and a half, 2 hours just to pitch one person for many, many reasons, which only adds up to being maybe 20 hours a week, but that's a lot of work. So in this process requires a lot of patience. And sometimes it is, okay, set it and then wait. And there are moments when it's like, there's nothing you can do because you have to let all these algorithms get to work. What are some expectations that people need to understand when leveraging SEO?
Yeah. So I tell all of my clients, like, even if we've gone through your website, we've optimized everything, I will not look at anything for 3 to 4 months, sometimes up to 6 months. Like, I won't, you do not track, like, don't look at everything every day, because sometimes I have clients who see massive growth in 2 weeks, but that's because their industry is like less competitive. So it's easier. if you're in a really saturated industry, it can take 6 months to a year to actually start seeing results. But the benefit is it's long term. It's not like you're spending a bunch of time on Instagram Reels and you're looking for that instant gratification that you see. Like, this is something where the content you create now and the foundation you set now can still drive traffic for you 5-10 years down the road. Like, it's something that is going to just compound over time. So it's worth it, but you just have to wait. And as long as you're seeing subtle trends, and usually what I'm looking for is like search traffic, like, is your search traffic going up? Are you getting indexed for more keywords? Are you ranking on higher pages? Or are you getting more backlinks? Like, are people talking about you? Are you getting those features? If all of those things are trending up and your domain authority is trending up, then you don't need to worry about anything. It's just going to be a slow process, but it's worth it. Worth it.
So one thing I was just thinking of, I Google some content. So in my original agency days, we did a lot of contributed content for really notable publications like Neil Patel, HubSpot. And I go back to those articles that I know were written in 2014. And it's like last updated September 25th, 2023. I'm like, what's going on? So explain to me, why are these trafficked, like, as in like they're getting a lot of reach? Why are they going back and updating these posts? And what is it that they'd be updating? Are there words? Are there images?
Oh, I love this. So Google has something called a helpful content system. So a couple times a year, Google is doing updates to their helpful content system. And I can actually send you the link so you can include it in your show notes too. They have guidelines so that you can self-assess all of your content and make sure that it's following these guidelines. But basically, your whole website should be offering helpful content. Just because you wrote a blog post 10 years ago, like, if that blog post is still living on your website and you don't want to delete it, is it still relevant? Can you go back and update it? Can you make it better? Updating your content is just as beneficial as creating new content. So I would much rather you say you write one blog a week or 2 a month. I'd rather you cut that in half and spend time updating 2 of your posts each month and then creating 2 new posts. It is just as valuable to update your old content as it is to write new ones. So
that takes the pressure off of always having to create original content.
Yeah, it makes it easier.
Okay,
and
so I have some content that
I'll tell you in a sec.
Probably 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago, on the website that is not really, I don't even think it's ranking. I mean, I would probably know. However, it's good content. Does it make sense for me to change a couple of things and then republish it to today's date? Can I do that?
Yeah. So I would look at absolutely, you can do that. One thing, so September was the latest helpful content update. And one of the things that came out in that is, are you changing a couple words and then republishing just to make it seem fresh?
Okay.
So they know. They're not dumb. But that is something that they're watching for. But it doesn't mean, like, sometimes you have to change a fact or a statistic. So, like, sometimes it's okay because you are updating relevant information. But it's more important to, like, take a look at that and, like, think back. Okay, what keyword was I writing for? I'm going to search for that keyword. What are people using? There's also this section in Google that says people also ask. And if you click on it, it's a bunch of questions that people are asking related to that keyword. Can you take those questions and answer them in your blog post? Like, can you enhance your blog post, make it longer, answer these questions, make it more robust, and then republish it? So that is definitely something that you should be doing. And especially if you like the content and it's not ranking, then go and look at your keywords. Like, what's going on? Like, is it just too competitive? Is my keyword too niche? Because if my keyword is only like driving 10, like only 10 people are searching for that a month, it's just too niche. Like, you might be ranking well for it, but it's just not driving the traffic because not that many people are searching for it. So it's like understanding that. But my favorite thing to do when you're refreshing old content is to use like ChatGPT and to use AI. Like, you had mentioned going and leveraging people to like write content for you. Like, we have those people literally for free at our fingertips, and it's a robot. Like, just using that to help update your content. So I use it. I don't do not have it write a whole blog post for you. Please do not do that. It's going to be crap. But do it section by section. Like, hey, I want to write a paragraph that's talking about this. Like, what would you say? And then I'll be like, hey, can you put this more in the voice that's like this? And I might copy and paste a paragraph from another part of the blog and be like, hey, match this tone of voice because that's more like me. Or I may be like, hey, that is like way too advanced. Like, I don't like these types of words you use. Can you try again? Like, you need to refine the tool and you need to speak to it like a person to get a result that's going to look good and be helpful on your website. But use it because it's a great resource to be more efficient with your time in creating content.
Oh my gosh. Let me tell you, I use ChatGPT, especially when you hit this like creative roadblock. And I've done it and it's literally saved me hours of time because it's kind of like, it just pushes you in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done it to outline entire content strategies. I'm like, this is crazy. And obviously we don't use that, but it gives you direction. The other thing we do it for is, I mean, the most success you can get with ChatGPT is a very specific set of prompts. And you have to become really good at that. But we've refined our prompts for our clients to help kind of get the ball rolling. And one I did to write a press release for a client blew my mind. Yeah. I was like, this would take me probably 4 hours to write and you did it in 30 seconds. That's crazy.
I know. It is crazy.
So I know there's a lot of people that hate it. They poo-poo it because they think it's taking their jobs. I would say whenever there's a market change, there's a market opportunity. And those that are successful in PR in marketing aren't necessarily the ones that are ignoring it. They're also not the ones that are using it verbatim, but are the ones that are using it as a foundation for brainstorming and creativity and answering quick questions. It's a tool, just like all the SEO tools that you suggested.
We're always looking for ways to be more efficient with our time. Like, it's here. That's it. Like, that's the tool to use. Yeah. It's, and I will say the paid version is worth every penny. It is way better, like way better than the free version. So I definitely recommend it.
Updated it yet. I've been getting so much from the free. Okay. So one last question for you. When I ask you what it means to be a wild woman, what is that to you?
Oh my goodness. I think it means not to step out of your boundaries and not be fearful of what's going to happen, like to be okay to fail and just to really step out of your comfort zone and do things that kind of scare you whether it doesn't need to be every day because that feels kind of aggressive, but making sure that you have those like goals for your business and for your life that kind of freak you out a little bit.
Yeah. I love it. Okay. So Abbey, if people want to find you or follow you online, where can they go?
Yeah. So duocollective.com is where you can find all of our things. I am just one half of the duo. My business partner, Courtney, is all on the branding side. She's the one that makes everything pretty. And I'm the one that spends all my time in the Excel documents and analytics. So you can find us there. We also have our own podcast, Duo on Air. And I love to break down all of the jargon. So you have like 100 episodes you can binge on SEO. So have fun.
Woohoo! What a Friday night you can have.
Right?
Well, thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you.